They tryna turn Trenton into Baby Flint. Been signs by depression on the billboards ever since. 100 years ago we was lynched. Now they use germ warfare to kill us. I'm convinced, got the evidence. I look around and it's evident. Then go down to City Hall and see so much negligence. Real art is intelligent. A true artist sends messages that speak to your intelligence. They fought and died so I can do my thing. Not to get drunk and high or join no gang. I will not let none of you die in vain. For my people I bang, bang, bang. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. They say post-traumatic slavery disorder's fake, but I just tell them all to wake up. Everything we went through, what a way down a rape, bro. Isn't our genetic makeup. So I am my ancestors from block to block. Let's build like it's Tetris. We must unite, link up like a necklace. They fought and died and we disrespected. So I come to correct it. The legacy they left I protected. We only think about self and neglected. You're African but yet you rejected. No. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. I do. I go.
Welcome back to another edition of New Freedom Exchange, your cultural expression for social dignity and community empowerment. I'm your co-host, Brother Deen, here with...
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Marsha.
Wa alaikum salam. All
That's
right,
like
all
my
right.
signature.
I know, right? The whole nine. So we welcome you all back to another edition of New Africa August on New Freedom Network. We've been highlighting over these months. We have several shows highlighting different institutions and organizations in our community, what their history was, what their mission is, what their short-term and long-term goals are, and how you all can help them. And we're happy to have another guest today, and we have one more before the month is out tomorrow. So we're doing a back-to-back. But before we do that, let us know where you all are calling from or watching us from or hearing us from. Put us in the chat. Until then, how are you, Sister Marsha?
I'm doing well. Today was a pretty simple Monday, which I'm grateful for. Had a deadline at work, met the deadline. Shout out to my assistant for working really hard and getting stuff done. Natalia Soto is my assistant, and so she made work easy for me today for sure. But it's all alhamdulillah. I mean, we're in the season also too, which is befitting, for the interview that we have today. But we're in the season of sort of getting ready for school too. So I'm in that mode as well. Over the weekend, taking my girls to get things that they need for school and all of that great stuff. And it's interesting because my middle daughter, who's going to the 10th grade, is like super excited for going to school. And usually it's the little ones. But yeah, not so much. Aaliyah, she could care less if any school called for her, because she ain't even looking for it. But Amina's super excited. I guess too because she spent her freshman year going to school virtually. So, that was her first experience for high school. And so I think she's just excited to be in the building and be with students and be in activities, so.
Nice.
That's what's going on this end. How about for yourself?
let me give a couple shout real quick and then I'll get right back on this. We got ATL in the building, of course. Majid Abdul Kareem. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. We also have Sadara Nail or Sadara Nail. She said, Assalamu alaikum. Sister Sadara Nail from the Nations Mosque. All right.
All right.
In Washington, D.C.
Y'all.
Welcome to New Freedom Exchange. So today's pretty good as well. Of course, I'm always in transit, right? You see me driving. I got my new shirt, Spread Love. That's the Muslim way. It's the Muslim way.
Okay.
Inspired by
on that Biggie.
But yeah, it was me and Imam Bilal. We was in Philadelphia. I think it was Friday. We did the Jummah at Mass Jillah. That was pretty nice.
Nice.
It was good to see the believers there. Haven't been in a while. And afterwards, we went to the Ummah shop, Premier, in the Premier Mall. I think one of the second largest mall in the nation, King of Prussia, and the Ummah shop owned by African American Muslims. And they have an array of different African American and Muslim vendors. Products in the store, so it was pretty cool to actually go there. So we're looking forward to also doing some other live shows and some other things with them in the near future.
Right.
So that's that. But with no further ado, if there's nothing else, anyone else like to give me a shout out, you're welcome to just share that as you come on. But we'll jump right in. We have our special guest here with us. He's already in the queued up.
Yeah.
We'll have you have his bio.
Absolutely.
Right.
So let me go ahead and read his bio. This is the bio for Principal Khalil Ali. The new principal of Muhammad Schools of Atlanta is an alumni that graduated in 2003 and a descendant of the Honorable Sister Clara Muhammad, pioneer in the development of Islamic education in America. He has dedicated his life and mission to be a guidepost for our scholars. This has demonstrated that being an intelligent, educated Black man is a reality that is accessible. He began his educational career in 2008 as a substitute teacher for DeKalb County Schools. He spent the last 13 years as a math teacher for that system. He is part of the legacy of Muhammad Schools of Atlanta and will contribute to the leadership team preserving and ushering forward 40 years of history. And so without further ado, we're going to bring our brother in and ask him all sorts of questions. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. How is everybody doing?
Doing well today. I'm excited for this interview. Anytime we're talking about education, I'm just a little extra happy.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So we'll jump right into it. We are acknowledging and celebrating New Africa August, and in so doing, we are highlighting our institutions. And today we'll be highlighting the Muhammad Schools of Atlanta. And so we just read your bio and got a small feel for who you are and how you came to be connected to the schools. But give us a little bit more about you and a little bit about the mission of the school.
Okay. Well, just a little bit about me. I guess that wasn't in the bio. Actually, almost all of it was in the bio. I've been in education since 2008. I was in high schools and middle schools as a teacher, as a sponsor for certain boys clubs, certain sponsor for just mentorship in general. And I put stress on, and I find it as a strength of myself, just building relationships. And so many mentees who I've taught over the years, matter of fact, I just spoke to a couple of my mentees who I taught in 6th grade, who they're in college right now. And, they give me a call every now and then just to ask for advice or just wanted to talk sometimes. So I really pride myself on building relationships. And I think that's the strength of what made me successful as an educator. But going into the history of the schools, actually, the history of the schools started for more than 40 years, actually. Just to bring it all back, just to give you a brief history where it all began. It began in actually 1918. So a great woman by the name of Clara Muhammad, she was married to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But together, they dedicated themselves to educating their own children and not leaving their destiny in the hands of the American educational system. So what they did is they risked their lives and their freedom in an era where not only was independent education illegal, but bold is independent thinking by African Americans was considered a threat to the United States of America. This is all back, back in the heydays or back in the way days. So as a result of their dedication to their mission, Clara and Elijah Muhammad, they carved a space in American history. So she, as the mother of education, and he, as the foundation of Islam in America, and they opened up their very first Islamic school in the nation. And that changed the face of freedom and education in America forever. All right. So Muslim schools across the United States, they owe their birth to the vision and the commitment of Sister Clara Muhammad, who inspired the opening of more than 40 elementary, middle, and high schools that were at first named University of Islam. So she began her initiation of Muslim schools in the early 1930s. But to bring it into Atlanta, Atlanta's story is the Muhammad Schools of Atlanta. It was originally called, of course, the University of Islam. That was established in Atlanta in 1965. And under the leadership of the newly appointed imam and the school director, the University of Islam, it was closed in 1977 for financial reasons. And so it opened back up in January 1980. That's where those 40 years came from. But it had, when it opened up, it had a new thrust, a new foundation, a new team of educators, and a new name. So the school was renamed Clara Muhammad School in the honor of Imam W.D. Muhammad's mother, Sister Clara Muhammad, who was the catalyst for the establishment of Islamic schools throughout the United States. So in 1987, actually, the Muslim community of Atlanta, or the Atlanta Masjid, they decided to add one grade a year to expand to a high school, which that evolved. Basically, what that did is a year later, the high school with less than 20 scholars, it was named in honor of Imam W.D. Muhammad. So the first high school graduation under the new direction was in 1992 with 8 pioneer graduates who had the theme, first and simply the best. So each year, the school graduates highly motivated and determined leaders who are eager to extend their education and to make their mark on the world. So that's just a brief history of the school itself.
That I already told you I was excited, right? So like, just hearing the story is beautiful, right? I feel like it's a testament to what obviously has been done, but that what is possible, right? Because when I think about all that you just shared with us, I think about how that was done with limited resources in comparison to what we have accessible to us today.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you mentioned 40 schools, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how, right now I know that that's not our number, but just to imagine that 40 schools were thriving at a time where there were not nearly as many resources as we have at our disposal today. So even though, some people may look at that and say, oh man, we had all of this and now we don't have as much. But for me, in my mind, it's like it's a motivation to get back, right? Because you talked about how under the University of Islam, the school closed and then reopened, and it reopened with that business model of, okay, we'll have one grade and then add a grade each year until we get all the way up there. So the model's there.
Yeah.
The model's definitely there. And then the Muhammad Schools of Atlanta is a testament to the fact that the model works.
Right. Most of those schools, they were started in homes. They were small, they were very small schools, and it didn't build out into them getting buildings until many years later.
Nice.
That's what I was going to ask you as you were giving us, I guess, a bird eye view. Can you go like a little deep dive? As you say, you are also a descendant of Clara Muhammad, Sister Clara Muhammad. Can you share, if you care, your lineage, like which child or grandchild, and what were those stories like hearing, firsthand by being a part of the family? How was that? I'm sure it wasn't that always easy. I'm sure those stories passed down, those different, legacy stories, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of lineage, of course, my great grandmother and my great grandfather, Sister Clara Muhammad and Honorable Elijah Muhammad, their daughter Lottie, who later changed her name to Raya, that's my grandmother, and her daughter Halima that's my mother. So that's
Oh
how.
wow, that's your mother. Okay,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah.
Oh, so you're familiar with her?
Yes, I know. She did the book, Clara Muhammad.
Yeah,
We have the
mother.
book.
Yes.
Yes,
In
I
her
excellent.
also
care.
met her one time. She was in Newark. We had something, and I met her. So yeah, I'm also familiar with her. Alhamdulillah.
Right. It's surprising. I really can't even call it surprising anymore. Almost everybody knows who my mother is. So yeah. But in terms of the stories and everything, I've heard the stories, firsthand, really from my mother, my entire life. She considers herself, or been called, deemed the family historian. So a lot of those stories come from her, and especially getting that firsthand context, because you hear different stories out in the public or different perceptions that other people have, but to have that firsthand knowledge is really beneficial, and it's actually very empowering. So it really wasn't very difficult. It really just gave me, like I said, it was empowering. It gave me wisdom and knowledge beyond my years, because I was able to glean from them and glean from my elders.
Excellent. Real quick, one little follow kickback. One story I remember her sharing. It might even be in the book that she wrote in regards to she being there when Amjad Muhammad had a meeting with Malcolm X, or not Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King.
Oh,
And that picture, that famous picture, a lot of people share about it, shows how like our communities, though we had our faith, we had our independence, we still were connecting with other freedom fighters. So that was very interesting when she shared that.
yeah, absolutely. That story's not in her book. I think she is going to write that though. But we have to collaborate, and we have to have that sense of learning from others. We can't just hold ourselves in this bottle and believe that all the knowledge that we contain is all contained in here within our community. No, we have to be able to branch out to learn from other people, and that picture. I remember that it's a very powerful picture, just to show that these communities aren't pockets. The following of Dr. Martin Luther King, it wasn't just that one group. No, that was a lot of Black America. Same thing with Elijah Muhammad. It wasn't just the Nation of Islam. It really, the influence is widespread. You can even feel that today. A lot of Black celebrities even mention the Nation of Islam and Honorable Elijah Muhammad in terms of adoration. They revere it, and it's something to be looked back positively on. And I think that's something, especially a lot of things that they did back in the nation, that we can learn from even today.
And last one, I know Marsha, she's gonna get me. She'll go her rounds. But normally Bilal would do this, but we did find this in our archives. Voila.
Oh, wow. There it goes.
So living history. Excellent.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about specifically the Muhammad Schools of Atlanta. Talk to us about your mission. Also, because of your direct history with the school, talk to us about, being an alumni and having that come full circle as the principal.
Right. So, let me just talk about, I guess, my experience as an alumni first. I graduated the school, well, actually, before I graduated, I went to the school from 9th grade to 12th grade. So my family moved here from Fresno, California, and moved here in 1999. And so I went to school, like I said, from 9th grade to 12th grade. So I graduated in 2003. And it was always something of a conversation in terms of, especially once I got into education, it was like, oh man, you got to go back to Muhammad schools. You got to do this. And so it was always a conversation, throughout these years, that was something that I should do. And so as I progressed through my education, and I finally got in a position to where I was able to come back and contribute and help to the school, that is something that is near and dear to my heart. Like I said, it's not just the family legacy that is important. You have the fact that I'm an alumni that's important. And also I have 2 children who go to the school. I have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old who attend the school now. So, this is my community. This is my school. And so I've got to do my due diligence to make sure that it's successful. And so, especially this year, being the start of my first full-time year, I wanted the primary focus to be on, as a matter of fact, I wanted to move away from calling them students to calling them scholars. And so my primary focus is on scholar learning and their success, and really how to best support our stakeholders, which is our parents, our teachers, our students, our whole community. So we can't afford to continue to keep our scholars in schools for so many years without doing a better job of making our schools places that we all love. Places that we can't wait to come to every morning, and that when we leave exhausted and pleased with ourselves every afternoon. That's what I want. Schools are for the children, but they're also where the youth build their images of adulthood. They see that this is a daily thing. So our schools, they need to serve the scholars and the teachers as well. So typically when there's a significant change, there's a lot of discomfort associated with that, but we continue to stay committed to our scholars and their families. And we recognize how important it is to ensure that our scholars are prepared to take care of themselves and their families when they graduate. And so one thing that I wanted to impress upon not only our stakeholders, but to everybody, is that this goal is within our reach. So to accept the status quo, that would be the greatest disservice to our scholars and the community that we serve. So it is imperative upon us that we do something to move ourselves forward and to push that needle forward.
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
No.
I love that. I love that. And so, and it just speaks to the fact that education is, like, when we think about it, we need to be thinking about it with a larger scope and a bigger vision, right? It's not just for our children, it's what impacts our society as a whole. And so you mentioned, you use different words, but you mentioned sort of cultivating the children for what adulthood then turns out to be for them. And I think that is a beautiful way to look at what we do as educators, how we educate our children, whether you're a certified teacher, a principal, or a parent. That should be the scope. So now tell us a little bit about Muhammad Schools Atlanta and their short-term goals. What are some of the goals of the institution?
Okay. Well, some of the short-term goals is of course increasing enrollment. I am pleased to announce that last year we ended with 81 students, and this year we surpassed our goal. Our goal was to start the year off with 125. We are at about 136 right now. So that's amazing. Alhamdulillah. We're looking to. So now my next goal is 200, because when I graduated, it was around 300 students, and I know that because of COVID, those numbers had to shrink a little bit, but that 200 goal is well within our reach. And so increasing enrollment, of course, is one of our short-term goals. I have three focuses that I wanted to implement, or that I wanted to push forward in my leadership. And one of them is just putting a broader focus on character education, which is something that our school has already really done a great job of. I can testify that myself. Matter of fact, many of the same people that I graduated with, those are my really close friends. I just talked to them earlier today. It's family at the end of the day. But at Muhammad Schools, we want to make sure that we empower students and we hold them accountable. And it's got to be through the tenets of Islam. And so we encourage our students through what's called positive reinforcement, and that's to develop themselves as Muslim and to strive to meet their goals through acceptance of responsibility and developing a sense of self-accountability by learning by their own mistakes. And so families, they're encouraged to participate in the school and model proper Islamic behaviors in the home, thereby reinforcing the Islamic worldview of the child. Character education, so what we do at the school, character education is integrated into the existing curriculum as it is. So it becomes a part of the general framework in which all education takes place. So the environment is big. So the environment in our school, we want to make sure that it builds Islamic identity and awareness by, of course, enjoining what is good and forbidding what is wrong, according to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for this reason, Islamic standards of conduct, appearance, arts, celebrations, even prayer, fasting, and charity, they're all exercised and they determine the overall climate of our school. So that's one of the goals. One of the goals is just to put forth a bigger focus on character education. Another short-term goal is to put more of a focus on real-world skills. And so that's something real big that I'm implementing this year. And so the reason why I'm doing that is because, just give you some statistics, about 89% of Americans, they agree that life would be a lot easier for them now if they'd just learn more practical skills in high school. And the average American saying they don't really grasp adult life skills until they're about 29. And so a lot of the graduates, they're discovering that what they learned in school didn't help them find stable jobs. It didn't help them navigate adult life, stay in good health, all of those things. So that's going to be something that we want to rectify. Matter of fact, you're probably familiar with this if you've been on the internet for more than an hour. It's got an article that says 10 things you wish you learned in school, or 20 things I should have learned in high school. So those are basically, we want to have it to where at Muhammad Schools, that's not the concern. That's not what happens. You actually do learn those life skills like financial literacy, nutrition, credit, all of these things, real estate, all the things that our children need to really be successful in their lives. That's what we want to have a focus at our school. And so we also want to place a large focus on judgment and decision making, and control and expression of emotions, because that's what part of makes a successful adult. Because we're not just trying to build successful workers, we're trying to build successful people, successful adults. We want them to feel like their school was worth it. Like when they went through, it wasn't just a waste of time, which is what I hear a lot of graduates from public schools say. I just wasted 12 years of my life. I can finally start the workforce. We don't want our students to leave out with that. So we got to make sure that they see more of a focus on financial literacy and organization. Plus, we want to give them opportunities to do job shadowing, internship opportunities. And so some of the things that I asked are that what are some real life skills that you wish were taught back when you were in school, and how would your life improve if you had those skills now? And so that's one of the second goals that we have at our school, is to provide those type of things. And the last goal is really just to increase the presence of men in education, and not just as teachers and educators, but also as students as well. I'm proud to say our staff is very talented, and they're doing a great and amazing job. We have about 20 staff members on payroll right now, but in terms of male presidents, myself included, I am one of maybe 4. So if you're familiar with numbers, it's about 20%. And so there's a lot more balancing that has to be done. And the reason why that needs to be done is that we have to show our students, especially our men, we have to show them the best examples of how to be positive role models and mentors for children. We have to provide them an alternative to, the public image of the Black male, this negative, destructive. And so the presence of male teachers can be really important for a lot of children. And I've learned that over my years of education. It really allows them to observe men whose interactions with women are positive. They need to see that. And so we have to have a diverse workforce of teachers that can enhance decision-making processes, drive positive outcomes. And really the thing is, people from different backgrounds, the idea is they can see the same problem in different ways, which leads to innovative solutions. And that's what we want to have at our school. And that's another reason, or an additional reason, why we want to increase the presence of men in our schools. And so those are the 3 things that are our short-term goals. I know that was a little bit that was a little detailed, but I got
no, that was perfect. That was perfect. I'm like sitting here, trying to hold myself back, because there were 2 things that stood out to me of what you said. Everything was poignant. But the 2 things that stuck out for me were you talked about character education. And I'm of the opinion that, our schools have always taught character education. Sometimes we get these coined terms that come along the way as education, progresses and someone comes up with something new. So while we may not have been calling it character education all those years, that is exactly what has been done, is that we, and I'm saying we as a collective community, have been building the characters of the children in our charge. And then you mentioned the social emotional development, having to teach children to be able to manage their emotions. And I did everything but jump through this computer. Because one of the things that I always, or just is like, mind boggling to me is that in early childhood education, we have a focus on social emotional development for our young ones. And then when we come into, and I'm talking mainstream education, then when we come into elementary school and they go into the higher grades and they progress, we kind of just do away with that altogether, but it's such a big part of early childhood education, and that's a part of my background. So I'm so familiar with the fact that we focus a lot on social emotional development, teaching young children how to interact with each other, having them to use their words when we are wanting them to express the feeling that they're feeling. And then somewhere along the lines, we lose it. And then we want to judge our children for how they are having a struggle with articulating or managing those feelings that we stop teaching them how to both identify and manage. So don't worry about how long you speak about any of this, because this is absolutely up my alley. And with that said, tell us a little bit about some of the long-term goals, if you have any for the school.
Oh, there's plenty. So long-term goals for the school, let's just say on the physical side of the building, of course, we need a new building. We want to maximize the space so we can, of course, have more students. Inshallah, have boarding to where the students can do lodging and boarding, maybe live with a mentor that's on campus, those things of that nature. But really what I want, a big walkway or a big long-term goal of mine, is for our students to graduate with a portfolio and graduate with certifications in the field that they want to enter into. So say, for example, if we have an electrician or somebody who wants to be an electrician, when they graduate, I want them to graduate with a certification in electrical engineering, with a portfolio that they can go back and show people, hey, I've done A, B, and C, to where they can actually legitimately go into and either start their own career, start their own business, or to be integrated in somebody's company where they don't have to necessarily have all the or they don't have to spend an extra 2-3 years getting experience, that they've already gathered that experience. And so that's really a big picture, and I know there's a lot in that, but like I said, graduating with certifications. I want us to produce Hafiz at the school. We've had Hafizes attend our school, but we haven't produced one in-house. And that's one of the goals that I want long-term. And really just for our students or our scholars, to graduate and to have, like I said, a portfolio, something they can look back on that shows their successes, that shows their strengths, their weaknesses, and something that they can learn from, and they can have certifications when they leave out of school, so they'll be more prepared for adult life. Like I said, that's the main goal, is to make productive and successful adults and civic leaders in our country.
Excellent. I think that ties also into the question. One of the listeners says, do you think that in the near future, Muhammad High School will incorporate the dual college and high school curriculum, where you graduate from both high school and college in your senior year? So I think you just addressed that.
Yeah, and they already actually have dual enrollment. They don't necessarily graduate from high school and college at the same year, but they take their general education courses, those who qualify for dual enrollment. So when they actually do enter into college, their first 2 years of general education are already met. So they only have 2 additional years. Matter of fact, one of the alumni that I graduated with, he actually went through that program. And I was a bit remiss, because I didn't know that it existed back then. And I wish that I had started that same program.
Another question just came in. Are the students going to be taught about marriage and family building?
Absolutely. That's part of the character education that I was talking about. Matter of fact, I had just met with a few brothers who volunteered to spend their Fridays teaching actually some of those things, and really stressing the importance of marriage. We actually had some years ago, we actually had a married couple attend our school. Matter of fact, they got married while they were in high school, and they actually we had to develop a whole nother page in the student handbook for marriages. So that's definitely a focus. And us as Muslims, we need to promote marriage, especially marriage young. You don't want to see any of the other options that are out there. So I think marriage is definitely something that we need to focus on, and that we are focusing on.
Nice. And to your point about the students coming out of the high school with certification, I just wanted to point out, just because uh, this is my field of interest, I guess. For those who you have, the scholars that you have that are interested, let's say in early childhood education, there is a credential. It's called the Child Development Associate Credential. And most people who get that would work in a early childhood center. But there is a program for students who are in high school and to come out with that credential. So I just wanted to put that out there because that's something that I do. I actually have a nonprofit that trains. We mostly train adults, but I know that the option is there for the high school students as well. So that's something to consider.
Make sure you have my contact information, Sister Marsha. I want to know that.
Listen, I'll pass on anything that needs to be passed on. And so, but I want to actually, I'm going to ask. Usually, we ask the next question. Sort of how the community could help. So you shared with us the mission of Muhammad Schools of Atlanta. You talked to us about the short-term goals and the long-term goals. And usually next in our sequence is, how can the community help to move those things forward?
How the community can help at this point. One, if you have any children who are attending public schools, make sure you bring them on over to Muhammad Schools. That is the very first thing that the community can do, is bring their children into our school. The second thing is support us with your time. If you have volunteer time, if you have expertise that you can lend to the school, our doors are open. My door especially is open. All you need to do is come talk to me. We can arrange a time and to disperse that among our students. And if you don't have time, of course, donating resources would also be a great help. If you go to our website, muhammadschools.org, there's actually several links on there. There's a donate button. There's information about how we started, our history, our vision, our mission, our academics. Once again, that's muhammadschools.org. So really what the community can do to support is, once again, enrolling your children in the school, supporting us with your time or your resources, and really just building that community back. Become a bigger presence at the school if you haven't been already. Follow us on social media, come up to our campuses if you have time, and really just that community presence in that field, and just our students seeing that the community is involved and that they are that they revere the school and that they want the school to improve. I think that will go a very long way in boosting morale and improving the school.
Nice. So I wanted to slide in another question, but I said, let me ask the question that I just asked you first before I start throwing some other ones at you. But we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that at one time there were 40 semi-schools. And now, the number is much lower than that. And so the fact that Muhammad Schools of Atlanta is thriving, you are meeting the goals that you are setting for yourselves. What sort of encouragement do you have for the schools around the country who are who continue to be in the fight, who have a vision larger than where they are now to do what it is that you do, what you have been successful at doing at the Muhammad Schools of Atlanta?
My encouragement is collaborate. That's one of the big things that I want to do, especially if things go really, inshallah, things go successful here at Muhammad Schools. I want to take this and expand it to other schools around the country. We've already been in collaboration with the other Muhammad schools. Especially me, I have been in the past couple of years. And so the only way to move forward and just to simplify it is just collaborate. That's what we're here for. Like I said, our doors are open. But matter of fact, let me give you the number. You can call the school directly, 404-378-4219. And my email is principal@muhammadschools.org. Reach out to me and let's collaborate on making this better. Because once our school is better, and if I'm doing everything that I can to improve here, like I said, I want to see all of our schools do well, because it is our schools. It's not just the other schools around the country. No, this is ours, and we have to take ownership in it and be willing to collaborate with others, especially if they're doing better. So if somebody's doing better in a certain aspect in another part of the country, please let me know so I can improve. I need to steal your ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really trying to contain myself over here. Mujahideen is laughing because he already knows like how I feel about these schools. And, I also talked about that whole, I have a personal vision of, if when we get this school up and running and get it thriving, let's just duplicate that all over the place. So, when you said that, I'm just like, okay, Marsha, just stay in your seat. Don't get too excited, but get excited. So it's just refreshing to hear that and to know that like minds exists in our community, that we are still in this. Many people would allow the number of schools, the dwindling of the schools, to discourage the mission, the vision, what Sister Claire Muhammad set out to do. And that, obviously at that time she wanted to save her children, right? She wanted to save her children from a influence that she saw as not being beneficial for them. And so as parents, as community members, we all have that personal vision for our I love you too, Sister Karen. But we all have that vision in our own households, right? So you see people would take at least from my experience, people would take their children out of like a public school and put them in a charter school, and that's their expression of wanting their children to be in a better environment, feel like they're escaping some sort of other influence. And so we're saying take that next step. Take that next step. But you also mentioned earlier that we have a responsibility, right? We can't remain accepting the status quo. We have to have a bigger vision and a greater commitment to giving our children greater, even within our school systems, knowing and believing that we can give them more and that we're obligated to give them more. So, it's great to have a Clyde Muhammad school, but then it has to then be a thriving Clyde Muhammad school, not just because we want to compete with the schools around us, but because we owe that to our children. Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm done. I will be quiet.
You ain't done. I just wanted to say as we close out, for those of you who are listening, if you have any more questions, you're welcome to share your questions with Principal Khalil. This was a very thought-provoking, clear-cut, mission-driven organization that's been presented to us. Continue the legacy. We also saw earlier by our dear sister Aisha K. Mustafa. She said that you have your two families. She says, where did it go? There you go. Principal Khalil Ali comes from two historical Muslim families. His father, inshallah, if he chooses to make any comment on that. So you talked about your mother. Let's get the father a little shout out.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. My father's side, they actually, I came from a line of educators. My grandfather is Nadar Ali. He actually was the pioneer that helped he helped do the fish imports for the Nation of Islam. He was actually the director of that. So he's a very important man. He was actually in administration for, I don't even know how long, since I was a kid. And my father is also an educator. He was a teacher, then became a principal and an administrator. And so I learned a lot from them. And really a lot of my students, when it comes to education, comes from that side of the family, because I really, they're my mentors. They're my first and biggest mentors. I actually just spoke to my grandfather yesterday. So yes, they're definitely very important. And once again, my grandfather was the director of the fishing ports. Matter of fact, you might be familiar with him. He was in a couple of documentaries. He's actually in the Smithsonian Museum. His name is on a plaque. Somebody actually sent it to me. But yeah, that's my father's side.
Give him a shout out. Say his name.
Oh yeah, that's Nadar Ali. So my
we know that.
grandfather's Nadar Ali, and my father's Nadar Ali II.
Wow, alhamdulillah. Also, Sister Sadara, she mentioned earlier, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to bless, guide, preserve, and protect us all, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to bless you to be successful in all that you endeavor to accomplish. Alhamdulillah.
Nice. I mean, this was a wonderful interview. I am always happy when we're promoting the best of ourselves. It's not necessarily to brag on what we're doing well, although we can do that a little bit. But it's an encouragement to others who are striving for the same thing. And so I thank you for Principal Khalil for taking the charge and taking up the mantle to lead the Muhammad Schools of Atlanta and to lead it with a vision. It's an encouragement to the other schools who are also striving to do that same thing. And for those of you who do have Claire Muhammad schools around the country and around the world, I encourage you to link up. I'm actually the principal of Claire Muhammad School of Newark, and we are restructuring our institution. But we also meet. The reason I brought it up is because the Claire Muhammad schools around the country, we meet once a month. We meet once a month to strategize, to collaborate, to share resources, to talk about the best practices in our various institutions for the benefit of helping each other to get to where it is we're trying to go and beyond. So if you're watching, if you're listening, we encourage you to continue to strive for what is good in your schools for the benefit of your children, but to also connect with the schools around, I keep saying the country, but I'll say around the world, because the school in Bermuda is a part of our monthly meeting as well. We're actually currently going through a training together, a few of the Claire Muhammad schools. We just finished some strategic planning training, I guess about a week and a half ago. So, and we're going to be moving on to our finance piece. So we are working together to make this thing bigger and better. So I just encourage everyone to collaborate, as Principal Khalil shared with us, and support the Claire Muhammad schools, the Muhammad Schools of Atlanta. Donate however you see fit, but we need each other to make this move forward. And we talk a lot about how our children come from Muslim families, but somewhere along the line this disconnect happens, and so we see our children out in the street, and you wouldn't for some of them you wouldn't necessarily know that they had that connection, and sometimes it's attributed to the fact that we didn't, for whatever reason, various reasons, we didn't keep that nurturing going and keep them in the cocoon to give them all that they can. And I feel like we do that in the Claire Muhammad School. So as much as possible, where you can do that for your children and the children in your midst, I encourage you to do so.
Excellent. One more comment of the question. You might have mentioned this earlier also, but Sister Valida mentioned, Assalamu alaikum, are you going to add carpentry for young men? Because I think it would be a huge benefit when we start rebuilding our Black Wall Streets across the South.
Absolutely. Carpentry is something that needs to be done. I've spoken with a couple of architects, but I haven't spoken with a carpenter specifically. But if you happen to know them, once again, principal@muhammadschools.org, just email me and let me know.
Also, are you aware of Brother Atiba Salah? He has the SAFE Institute. SAFE stands for Service, Agriculture, Vocation, and Entrepreneurship. So we can share that resource. And he's down your way as well. He's looking also to expand to boarding school as well. So I went to Clarence Muhammad Boarding School actually in Virginia when that was up and function back in the late 90s as well. So again, we thank you for coming on. Normally we ask our guests for New Africa August, what is New Africa as we close out to you? Oh, that was a question, my brother.
Oh, you were asking me, what is New Africa to me?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Just the concept of New Africa is just connecting with our history and with our heritage and making sure that we establish something new here and realize that Africa doesn't necessarily have to be contained on that one continent. We can bring a piece of Africa here and we can exhibit it and show it and be and honor the idea, the continent of Africa and the spirit of our African ancestors by exhibiting the best of what they've had to pass on, because we did have some knowledge passed on, whether or not we know it or not. It's in our genes, and it is something that we definitely have to make sure that we exude and we provide an excellent example for everybody in the public.
Excellent. Another comment here as we close out. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for sharing your vision with such a passion and very specific, clear articulation. Sister Zakia Shakir.
All right, amazing.
Yes,
I'm glad that I was clear.
Oh yeah, crispy as we say. Yes, sir. So until next time you have us, as was mentioned, Marsha extended her expertise to you in the institutions and us collaborating and working for a shared vision in the future. That's the whole thing about New Freedom Network. As we've been highlighting these institutions this month, we want to go forward into the next year, tracking our progress and expanding as we meet again next year. Oh, of course, we'll meet before then, but definitely checking back in next year for New Africa August.
Right. So if you need us to promote anything, if you need something to be scrolling across the screen in reference to Muhammad, just let us know. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, in fact, we have in our vision, we talked about our first show, we talked about the New Freedom Youth Exchange. So we would love to introduce podcasts if you don't have that already as a vision for you all at the school, so they can hear their voice. I know they do open mics and you guys have your own basketball team. I saw that, the Lady Khalifas and the Khalifas, the Khalifs. So we would love to even start covering some of those things on this platform as well, just to share the good news. And one thing that came to my mind when you talked about character education, we had something called a New Freedom Institute called Charactership. So I'll give you that. You can share that and you can run with it. Charactership, which is character leadership, which you already addressed. So we appreciate you again. Any closing remarks, Sister Marsha?
No, I'm done because I'll keep going. This is my topic all day long, but I'm gonna let the brother go. He's been working all day, and so have I. But it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. So any way we can connect and collaborate, we're available to the Muhammad Schools of Atlanta.
Absolutely, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to any future working with us. Absolutely. So I appreciate you inviting me on your platform. This is an amazing time. I'm glad to be able to express my idea in terms of the vision, short term and long term. And once again, thank you for even inviting me. This is an honor.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all ours. Until next time, we greet you all degrees of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
Ensemble, mes frères, mes sœurs, nous allons commencer une nouvelle lutte, une lutte sublime qui va mener notre pays à la paix, à la prospérité et à la grandeur.
Hey, hey, you out there, they say we all lost our way. Which way Binary roadblock, barricade, gunshot, politician, dirty cop, they don't stop us. No binary roadblock, barricade, gunshot, politician, dirty cop, they don't stop us. No binary roadblock, barricade, gunshot, politician, dirty cop, they don't stop us. No binary roadblock, barricade, gunshot, politician, dirty cop, they don't stop us. No. 100 million feet on the pavement.
On the pavement.
100 million eyes on the prize.
On the prize.
And we ain't got no fear in our hearts
No
now.
fear.
And we ain't about to run no hide. You know they can't cage change.
Can't cage it.
You know they can't kill justice.
Can't kill it.
You know they can't persuade us with their corporate media. You know we don't trust it. All in together now, kind of hold us down. All in together now, black, white, red, yellow, brown. All in together now, kind of hold us down. All in together now, black, white, red, yellow, brown.
Done with them tribal war, time for unity. Spiritual therapy, guide us back to reality. Roots extends to the heavens. Leaders with pure intentions. You can find us in the trenches. Been abused, colonized, exploited for too long. Overworked, under attack, spirit is too strong. Once upon a dreamer, we gather at the river, move as one to the next destination.
You know they can't cage change.
Can't cage it.
You know they can't kill justice.
Can't kill it.
You know they can't persuade us with their corporate media. You know we don't trust it. All in together now, kind of hold us down. All in together now, black, white, red, yellow, brown. All in together now, kind of hold us down. All in together now, black, white, red, yellow, brown. No binary roadblock, barricade, gunshot, politician, dirty cop, they don't stop us. No binary roadblock, barricade, gunshot, politician, dirty cop, they don't stop us. No.
Je vous demande à tous d'oublier les querelles tribales qui nous épuisent, Je vous demande à tous de ne reculer devant aucun sacrifice pour assurer la réussite de notre grandiose entreprise.